News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. The case against a 35-year-old Logan woman accused of starving her infant son to death is being put on hold. Jody Lee Anderson is headed to the Utah State Hospital after she was determined to be incompetent to stand trial. Anderson appeared Monday in Logan's First District Court. She was previously charged with aggravated murder, a capital offense, and obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony. Judge Spencer Walsh noted that two psychologists had analyzed Anderson. They determined she had an intellectual deficiency that could limit her ability to defend herself in court. Both doctors reported competency could be restored through treatment. On December 31st, 2021, Logan City police officers were called to a hotel room. Anderson and Zachary Michael Warhay, age 38, had been residing at the hotel during the last several weeks. A 46-day-old infant boy was found lying on a bed, unresponsive, not breathing, and with no heartbeat. Paramedics revived the child, transported the baby to Logan Regional Hospital, and later to Primary Children's Hospital. Medical staff said the boy was unhealthy and showed signs of malnourishment and neglect. He died 2 weeks later. KBNU News Time is 4:04. KBNU weather for tonight, chance of a shower or thunderstorm this afternoon, and then partly cloudy later tonight, low in the low 50s, and then sunny upper 70s on Thursday. It's been to 76. It's 67 with storms looming in the area. Currently here at KBNU. U&I Furniture is closing out last year modeled mattresses. Lots of choices, memory foam, innerspring, and hybrid models from a number of name brand manufacturers. Always a better buy at U&I, downtown Logan, 28 West, 1st North.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology cares about you and your hearing. Dr. Paul Danes has always called Cache Valley home and cares about its people. And Dr. Danes offers state-of-the-art equipment, allowing him to provide the best service and care possible when it comes to your hearing. So if your hearing isn't what it used to be, give Dr. Danes a call at 753-HEAR or visit CacheValleyHearing.com to see what they can do for you.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. Last year, the Family Place observed their 40th anniversary of providing help for families in northern Utah and southeastern Idaho. Now in their 41st year, they are not slowing down at all with events for all ages. On KBNU's For the People program on Monday, Carrie Phillips, Mental Health First Aid Project Director, said they have an event for the whole family at the end of the month.
As the Mental Health First Aid Project Director, part of my role is organizing community events that both offer resources to the community as well as helping them get out and have fun, do things that will help take care of mental health for individuals and families. This particular activity is going to be Saturday, September 30th from 10 to 6, and we are offering free entrance into Zootah for the entire day.
She said they will have resources available. You can ask questions, and they will have snacks. This will be a wrap-up to Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. When it comes to openly talking about mental health challenges, Phillips said it depends on the age group.
So I also work as an instructor at Utah State University, and I found working with students that they're starting to be much more open about discussing mental health challenges as a group. And when I go and work with middle-aged to older adults, it's something that's still, generally speaking, more difficult for them. So we just kind of have to approach it in different ways and meet people where they're at.
You can register for mental health first aid classes through the Family Place website. That is thefamilyplaceutah.org. And Utah Tech University has announced it is currently investigating the head coach of the school's women's basketball program. The school said it is investigating allegations made against coach J.D. Gustin. While the university did not release the accusations made against the coach, the Salt Lake Tribune reports that players allege Augustine engaged in bullying and humiliating players. The school announced in a statement that upon learning of the allegations, the university has been working decisively to address them in accordance with the university's values and policies to ensure they have been upheld. According to the Tribune report, Gustin used obscenities while insulting players, humiliated them in front of teammates, gave the silent treatment to some, and threatened to revoke scholarships. Players also claim that Gustin gave them unsolicited back rubs and shoulder massages and made comments about players' bodies and sex lives, which they said made them feel uncomfortable. Gustin, who is entering his 8th season with the school, has not commented publicly about the allegations and has declined comment on the investigation. KVNU News Time is 4:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Reporting the news that matters to you. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, your #1 radio station for news and talk.
Attention lovers of the Latin culture. Saturday, September 16th, Center Street in Logan will be the epicenter celebration for the Latino Festival. A day filled with joy, music, and cultural dances. A parade that marches down Center Street and fun music. Come hungry as we have an impressive selection of Latin flavors. And don't forget to visit our vendor booth where you can take home a piece of Latin culture. This year's Latino Festival is made possible by WCF Insurance, offering insurance solutions for businesses of all sizes and committed to strengthening the communities we serve. Members First Credit Union, our name says it all. And at Members First Credit Union, community matters. Gosner Foods, enjoy starting wages between $16 and $19 per hour. Quarterly bonuses and free health insurance. Inquire at GosnerCareers.com. This year's Latino Festival is Saturday, September 16th on Center Street in Logan. The celebration gets underway at 4.
Clean it up and get it out this fall.
Don't wait another winter. Let DD Auto and Salvage pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan want to pay you today. Search DD Auto and Salvage today or call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204.
See store for details.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Hi, this is Eric Franson with Cache Valley Media Group. Meet us in downtown Logan on Saturday, September 16th for the Cytiva Top of Utah Marathon. Cache Valley Media Group is proud to be the official media partner of the Cytiva Top of Utah Marathon and hope you'll join us in downtown Logan for this fun event on Saturday, September 16th. Find out more at topofutahmarathon.com.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
For our military families, Americans can show appreciation through education.
Because of you, I will walk across the stage.
I can show my children that they can succeed at any point in their life.
I will be able to make a positive difference in the lives of other people.
I was able to achieve my dreams and work on eradicate some of the world's top diseases.
I was able to get the education that I always wanted.
Because of you, I will be paying it forward and serving my nation.
Join us at ThanksUSA.org.
The Aggies are heading to Air Force to face the Falcons Friday night.
The talent level we're going to play over the next 3 weeks is going to be brutal. I mean, it does not get any easier.
KVNU is your home for the best game coverage with pregame at 4, kickoff at 6, and postgame and Aggie Call immediately after the game. It's the Aggies and the Falcons Friday night on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at kvnutalk.com and the KVNU mobile app, the heritage home for the Aggies. For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight
with Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVN News for the People. It is Wednesday. It was nice and sunny, but now blustery Wednesday afternoon, September 13th. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio. Coming up on the show today, Logan School Superintendent Frank Schofield and guests will be in the studio in hour 2 to talk to us.
The whole student body.
The whole school's coming with quite a few guests. We're going to have an advisor. We'll have the superintendent, an advisor, and some students, all part of a Latino student group working to make a more inclusive environment on the Logan High School campus and throughout Logan schools, but also helping to identify needs that the school wants to try and meet to, increase graduation rates, make sure every student has an opportunity for an education, things they're tasked with by statute and constitution here in Utah. So they'll be joining us later on in the show. We can spend the whole first hour on this if you want to. There's plenty to say, but the big news today came in the form of a video that we'll play for you later on. Video from Senator Mitt Romney, in which he announced he will not be seeking reelection in the United States Senate. This was an announcement that most of us expected to come later in the year, and had I been forced to predict, I would have predicted he would run for reelection. He chose not to. In the video, cites his age. He said, one of the things that I've learned here in the United States Senate, I'm paraphrasing here, we'll play the whole video for you after the first break, but he basically says, one of the things that has really stood out to me in the United States Senate is that we're too old. He said it's time for a younger generation of leaders to step up, and they can't step up if there aren't any openings for them. He says, if I ran again, by the time a second term ended, I'd be in my 80s. And he said that's not how I want to spend my 80s, but more importantly, that's not how Utahns should be represented. He said we need a new generation. And he said his time in the Senate has made that very clear to him. That was the initial shocker, that he wouldn't be seeking reelection. Quickly after that, McCoppins. This is a guy that if you live here in Utah, you've probably heard of before. He's a journalist. He's a writer for, right now, The Atlantic. But he's kind of a freelance journalist. He doesn't actually work for any specific organization, but he has Utah ties. He spent a lot of time here in Utah, both in Cache Valley and as a student, and Utah County as a student. He also is well known as a friend of Mitt Romney. He's spoken several times on campus here at Utah State University, and you can find video of those speeches still. He did a great presentation once on Congress and the perpetual campaigns that have broken the legislative branches. He's a very smart guy, but he makes no attempt to gloss over the fact that he's a friend of Mitt Romney. He's someone Romney trusts to speak frankly with, and Romney did just that. Coppins has a book coming out that he had been talking about for a while, and this was basically a biography of the senator, of not just Romney as a senator, but of Mitt Romney. But a portion of that book was published today in The Atlantic, obviously timed. Coppins obviously knew that Romney was going to make the announcement today. Or maybe he didn't know, but he was sitting on this book excerpt that The Atlantic had previously agreed to publish until Romney made the announcement. I guess I shouldn't assume he knew, but it's the timing of it was obviously because Romney made the announcement, and that has just dominated social media throughout the day. It's a lengthy excerpt from the book, but it's titled simply, What Mitt Romney Saw. And The Atlantic bills this as an exclusive excerpt from the forthcoming biography of Senator Romney, Romney, A Reckoning, by McKay Coppins. And give it a read. I'm going to do my best to go through some of the highlights here of what Romney saw, but it is well worth your time. And I tell you, I have already pre-ordered this book. It sounds like I'm guessing much of the book is as it's billed a biography of Mitt Romney, but the portion published today was a portion from what McKay Coppins says is a lengthy part of the book in which he talks to Romney about his experience running for president and serving in the United States Senate as a senator from here in Utah for the last several years. And it is scathing, to say the least. This is... I'm guessing when Romney did this interview, he must have had a good idea he wasn't running again, because this is commentary that would make a lot of enemies of Republican colleagues in the Senate. But he's not going after one party or the other or any specific individuals, really, although he does at one point say that he has been, over the last year, lobbying aggressively for Democratic senator who has been toying with a third-party run under the No Labels party to not do so. Romney says in the interview, I've told Senator Manchin, Joe Manchin, a Democrat from the West Virginia area, he said, I've told him repeatedly a third-party run helps Trump and no one else. I have been lobbying him to not do this. So Romney pulling no punches there. But what stood out to me in this Coppins excerpt from his upcoming book was Romney talking about the process behind the legislative body and what I call and what Coppins calls the perpetual campaign that is like a cancer just hollowed the process out. And Romney talks a lot about that. He said, well, there are a couple of things. He says, first of all, every Republican in the Senate and the House that he's spoken with who claimed the 2020 election is stolen knows they are lying. That's an exact quote. He said they all know the election was free and fair. They just say these things. And Romney uses that as an example of what he calls, this cancer, because he said more and more, and his experience as a senator, more and more, they're not lawmaking, they're not deliberating, they're not being a legislative body, they're constantly campaigning. They're saying whatever they think they need to say to keep power. And he said that he has not been able to shake this feeling. He said that he's had a lot of good experiences. He said, I've made a lot of friends. I feel like I've done a lot of good. He cites repeatedly his work on the infrastructure bill, which we'll be talking with Senator Romney about later on in the month, by the way, possibly early October, because that infrastructure bill does, to bring it right home to literally the kitchen tables in some cases, it is going to lead to a lot of projects here in northern Utah, including some much-needed infrastructure repair in various parts of Rich County, Box Elder County. So Romney talks about that. He said that was a big deal for him to make sure. He said, I saw this bill was going to pass. The Democrats had the votes. And he said, instead of just being someone opposed, he said, I decided to get involved and make sure that Utah was thought of in all of this. He said the money was going to be spent one way or another, and I wanted to make sure that if it was going out, and it was going, a good chunk of it at least was going to Utah, because he said, I recognize from what I've learned as a senator, Utah had some huge infrastructure needs that the state can't afford to tackle, and so they never get taken care of. One of those being, broadband, getting broadband into some of the more rural areas of the state as well. Anyway, back to Romney's commentary that has everyone talking today. They're talking about this more than they're talking about his announcement he's not running for re-election. He said, well, there's this part here. He said, Coppin's right, and yet to at least some of his fellow Republicans, the case against Trump was compelling. Talking about impeachment. Even if they'd never say so in public and wouldn't vote because of how it could affect their reelection chances, they told Romney they admired him for saying what none of them dared to say. During a break in the official proceedings at one point, after the impeachment managers finished their presentation, Romney walked over to Mitch McConnell and said to the Senate Majority Leader, "They nailed him." And McConnell nodded. Now, we, of course, all know what happened in the vote afterwards, which was very different than what McConnell was nodding and agreeing to. But Romney said, these experiences and others, he realized that this was more about senators hanging on to their jobs. He goes on to tell Coppins that he feels this is almost a cultural issue. He doesn't use the examples I'll use, but he said, he basically sets up this scenario where he said, a lot of people as they age into their late 70s and early 80s, I mean, we all know people this age, right? Possibly our own parents or grandparents, and they settle into, maybe they pick up pickleball. Maybe they become huge fans of Jeopardy reruns. Maybe they join groups, hiking clubs. Maybe they travel. Maybe they buy an RV and drive across the West all summer long. There are a bunch of different things that people do as they age, not only past retirement, but well into retirement. And, physically they can't do quite as much, but most people that age can still do quite a lot, and they want to enjoy life. So they find things to do. Romney says what's happening in the United States Congress and Senate right now is you have people this age who have made being in office their reason to keep living. He describes a scenario to Coppins that to spell it out very bluntly, is a bunch of people who are afraid that if they aren't reelected, if they aren't a United States senator, if they are no longer a representative in Congress, despite their age, that they will have nothing to live for. And so they get desperate in hanging on to that power. It's one of the most blunt characterizations of something that I think we can all see evidence of around us in our politics at the federal level especially. And Romney says it is a problem. He says it's grinding the legislative process to a halt more often than it's not. He says that it basically freezes the entire process when you're trying to solve an issue and no one is willing to even discuss it or budge a bit because they're thinking more of how they might be attacked on social media or have a harder time getting reelected if they take an unpopular position, but one they feel is necessary. He said, there are a few people out there right now who are being guided by a conviction or a principle or even a strongly felt political ideology. There are people mostly being guided by talking to the consultants and finding out what they need to say or be that day to make sure they don't leave the office. And he said it is not what all of this is supposed to be about. It's so far, Romney says at one point, so far from representation, it at times was disgusting. Romney also talks a little bit about being a Mormon and what the conversations he had with other senators about the LDS faith. He also talks about speaking. This was a story I'd never heard. Speaking at the Utah Republican Party convention in West Valley City in 2021, and he says he knew he was going to get booed, but he decided, he said he was up for it. So he goes on stage and he says, I know I'm talking to the rightest of the right, the furthest right of Utah, strong partisans. And he said, I thought, well, I'll rile him up a little bit. And he said, what do you think of President Joe Biden's first 100 days? And he said, they hated me so much they booed that question. And Romney, we all know this was kind of a famous moment. Romney let them get their boos out, and then he said, I hope you got that out of your system. And then a larger crowd there at the Republican convention cheered him, much larger than those booing. It was a really iconic moment. This is honestly a fascinating look at a United States senator, but more so, It's a fascinating look at what, well, as the title implies, what Romney saw and what is wrong with our Congress, with the United States Congress and the United States Senate. I really, really urge everyone to read this. Whether you're a Romney fan or not, kind of beside the point. There is a lot here about his experience personally with others, people he really got along with. Appears he has a really good working relationship with former Senate President and possibly Senate President again after the elections next year, Mitch McConnell. But he is very critical, and again says that the Senate at least is driven more by senators afraid to lose power more than they are concerned about doing the right thing for the country or their constituents. And again, he said his impression is that it has a lot to do with their age, that there are a lot of them, Romney says, who feel if they were not reelected at the advanced age that they're, late 70s, early 80s, he said there are a lot of them that feel if they're not reelected, they have nothing to live for. And Romney says, this is an exact quote, he said, it's really hard to see this and not feel sad for the country, for the United States Senate, for their constituents, and for them. And then he says in his announcement video that he wasn't going to run for re-election. This is one of the reasons he decided it's time for him to step aside, saying it's time for a younger generation of leaders to step up, and if there are no openings for them, they can't step up. It's a really fascinating thing, but as to what happens next here in Utah, with Romney out, that means this is an open Senate seat. This means that we're going to have 1,100 candidates filing for office. But where we are right now, for reasons no one understands, Speaker of the House Brad Wilson is still just exploring the idea. He set up an exploratory committee, which is a fancy way of saying you're trying to see how much money you can raise before you commit to doing it. We have Riverton Mayor Trent Staggs, who is officially filed. He is in the race. He's probably the longest shot. He's a MAGA candidate, basically. Wilson, if he jumps in, will be a more traditional Republican candidate and likely the next senator if he does jump in. And then to rule out a couple of rumors, Sean Reyes. Everyone thought if Romney didn't run, he would jump in. Sean Reyes decided everyone today. The Utah Attorney General said, I thought about this forever, and I wondered if I would, and I'm not going to. He said, I feel my place right now is to stay and be the Attorney General of Utah for longer, and I won't be running for the United States Senate. That was actually a bigger surprise, I think, than Romney saying he wasn't going to run for re-election. So that's kind of where we're at. How do you feel about all this? What do you think happens? If you want to make any predictions, are there any candidates you'd like to see jump in the race? And are you prepared for next January to June, which is surely at this point going to be a crazy political cycle with this open race now? 753-5868. Look at the news now with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KBNU News Time is 4:31. The news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. And as Jason was talking about on For the People, after more than 2 decades in public service, Republican Senator Mitt Romney making a major announcement today in a message posted online. The vocal Trump critic saying that it's time for a new generation of leaders and that he will not seek another term in the U.S. Senate in 2024, while slamming political rivals on both sides of the aisle.
Well, I'm not running for re-election. I'm not retiring from the fight. I'll be your United States Senator until January of 2025.
So after announcing his intentions, that, of course, creates a wide-open contest in a state that heavily favors Republicans and is expected to attract a crowded field. Romney says the country is ready for a new generation of leadership. The 76-year-old easily won election in reliably GOP Utah in 2018, but was expected to face more resistance from his own party after he emerged as one of the most visible members to break with former President Donald Trump. Attorneys for a man accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death late last year want cameras banned from the courtroom. Brian Kohberger's defense attorneys say news photos and videos have focused too closely on their client and that the coverage threatens his right to a fair trial. Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of murder in connection with the deaths at a rental house near the Moscow, Idaho University campus last November. Prosecutors intend to seek the death penalty. An attorney for news organizations covering the case says the visual journalists have followed the judge's orders about courtroom images. Wendy Olson says cameras help the public to understand the case and improve government transparency. And a groundwater study for the proposed Heber Valley Temple has been included in the list of concerns voiced by property owners. Since its announcement last September, a group of homeowners has raised concerns regarding light pollution, traffic, and water-related issues. The proposed temple, located at 1400 East Center Street in Heber City, will span 88,000 square feet on nearly 18 acres. If built, it would be the first temple in Wasatch County. While some express excitement about its construction, others oppose it, citing environmental concerns. A recent study commissioned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints said they revealed they may need to pump out or otherwise remove millions of gallons of water a day to build the temple. Church spokesman Sam Penrod said they could not comment on the record. Wasatch County Manager Dustin Grabow said homeowners will notice the water, but he doesn't think neighboring properties will be impacted. KBNU News Time is 4:35.
UNI Furniture has always been here to give you great value for your money. When it comes to home furnishings, it really is always a better buy at UNI. And right now, UNI is closing out last year's model mattresses. Closeouts on new models and displays, too. Memory foam, innerspring, and hybrids from a number of different name brand manufacturers. And ask UNI to show you this popular copper-infused mattress that sleeps cooler. And did you know UNI has a good selection of sheets and mattress protectors, too? UNI Furniture, over 90 years in downtown Logan. There's always a better buy at UNI.
To about 146,000 union members who could strike late tomorrow night against Detroit's Big Three, their leader, Shawn Fain, on Facebook Live this afternoon, telling them
the UAW doesn't back down from a fight. We're willing to do what's necessary to win justice by any means necessary.
More money and shorter hours are among the union demands. Announcing that he won't run for re-election, making age a major reason, 76-year-old Republican Senator Mitt Romney of Utah.
President Biden, when he was running, said he was a transitional figure to the next generation. Well, time to transition.
A federal judge has blocked part of a public health order that suspended the right to carry guns in public across New Mexico's largest metro, Albuquerque. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham wanted a temporary stop after recent shootings that killed children. Total deaths from flooding from a big storm in Libya are at least 6,000, says the Libyan Health Ministry, and it says that number could go higher. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
KBNU weather for tonight, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon, and then partly cloudy later tonight, low in the low 50s. Mostly sunny on Thursday around 77, sunny around 78 on Friday. It was 76 today. Right now it's 65 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by the Duck Hunter. With that season coming upon us, the Duck Hunter reminds you to change your furnace filter every 3 months. Your furnace will run more efficiently. To clean your ducts, give them a call at 435-770-4813. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com.
This is Cheryl, bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of financial advisor Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. U.S. equities were little changed following a mixed inflation report. The tech-heavy NASDAQ rose, the S&P 500 was flat, and small-cap stocks declined. Headline inflation accelerated for the second month in a row because of higher energy prices, but the core index, which excludes food and energy, dropped further. The Fed is likely to look through the higher energy costs for now, but will be on the high alert in case they spread to the broader economy. bond markets continue to price in little chance of a Fed rate hike next week and about 40% odds on one last hike in November. Crude oil was unchanged after its recent gains, with WTI around $89. The IEA warned today that supply cuts by Saudi Arabia and Russia will create a supply shortfall. Elsewhere, rates were slightly lower, with the 2-year Treasury yield at 5% and the 10-year at 4.24%. Today, U.S. equities closed higher. The Dow closed down 70 points at 34,576. The Nasdaq closed up 40 points at 13,814. The S&P 500 closed up 6 points at 4,467. The price of crude oil was flat at $88.73, and the spot price of gold was down $3.80 to $1,931.30. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
As the leaves fall, so do the prices at Murdoch Volkswagen. Harvest the best deals during our Get Out and Drive sales event. The summer heat is cooling off, and there's no better time to get out and drive.
Right now, receive 3.9% for 6 years on a new 2023 Tiguan or Taos.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. And Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 10/2/23.
Get ready for the ultimate home improvement event of the season. The Logan Fall Home Show is back. Mark your calendars, September 15th and 16th at the Cache County Event Center. Discover unbeatable deals on all your home improvement projects and meet local remodeling experts under one roof. Admission is free, so bring your friends and family. Doors open Friday from noon to 8 p.m. and Saturday from 10 a.m. until 6. Visit LoganHomeshow.com for more details.
If you're near retirement or thinking about retiring, you probably have questions. How do you make your savings last? How much should you take out and when? You're ready for retirement, but are your finances? Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you build a strategy to help your finances keep up with your long-term needs. You've done what it takes to get there. Now it's time to make the most of retirement. Call one of the 7 Edward Jones branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Just quickly before we get back to this, I wanted to run over this announcement we got via press release today from the Utah Agricultural Land Trust, because we've had representatives of the trust on the show before, so just kind of an update on their ongoing work and an event that they're actually putting together. This is September 16th, so Saturday, 5 to 8:30 p.m. at the Gibbons Green Gate Farm, which is in Smithfield. They're going to be holding a big event to help fundraise for their work, which is to help ag landowners protect their land for continued ag uses. This coincides with, the overall work of preserving open space through the ballot initiative voters approved last fall here in Cache Valley and more. And this is it's a pretty big deal. They've done some great work out in Mendon. They've done some work over in Box Elder County. And now they're doing some work here in Cache County up there in Smithfield. And former frequent guest of the show, former chairman of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation, Darren Perry, will be speaking at this event on Saturday. Again, it's 5 to 8:30 p.m. at the Gibbons Green Gate Farm in Smithfield, which you can Google for the address. And Darren Perry will be speaking about the importance of protecting open spaces, both for agriculture and also just for keeping them open. And then they're also going to have some bands, live music, the father-daughter duo David Anderson and Jenny Lynn. They'll have some cowboy poetry from Thatch Elmer and more. And spokesperson for the Utah Agricultural Land Trust, Deborah Van Noy, said by protecting Utah's agricultural sector, caring for the land can continue, and conservation easements not only protect ag land but also support wildlife habitat, groundwater replenishment, air quality, and healthier soils. So they're celebrating all of this by kind of making an announcement as well of conservation easement there. So that, again, is at the Gibbons Green Gate Farm in Smithfield this Saturday, 5 to 8:30 p.m., bands, live music, cowboy poetry. Darren Perry, former chairman of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation, will be speaking about the importance of open space and agricultural land. And also, I should have led with this, not brought it up at the end, but pulled pork sandwiches. The Grill in Tremonton will be catering the event. So pretty nice thing. So it is a ticketed event, but they've got plenty of space. And you can get tickets at their website, utahaglandtrust.org. So utahaglandtrust.org. And all of the money from this event goes to support the Utah Agricultural Land Trust and the work they do. So that's this Saturday. We may have more on this for you coming up later on in the week here on KVNU, so stay tuned. But I just wanted to throw that announcement out because we got word of that earlier today via press release. Back to Mitt Romney. A couple of listeners chiming in here asking others how they feel. 753-5868. Romney announcing he would not seek re-election today. And about an hour later, McKay Coppins, a journalist, published in Atlantic Magazine an excerpt from his upcoming book titled What Mitt Romney Saw. The book itself will be titled Romney, A Reckoning, and it's a full biography, but this portion that was published exclusively in the Atlantic today, again, is just jaw-dropping. Romney telling stories of what he thinks is wrong with Congress, with the legislative process, and kind of pinning it all on the perpetual campaign, saying that the Senate's too old. He's very blunt about that. He said that's one of the reasons he won't seek re-election is he felt, you got to walk the walk. But he said, I feel like the Senate is too old. We have people out here that instead of, learning pickleball or enjoying some traveling and retirement in their golden years. Instead, they're desperately hanging on to power, feeling that if they are no longer a United States senator, they'll have no reason to live. And he said it's sad. It's sad for them. It's sad for their constituents and their states. And he said it's sad for the process. It leads to this perpetual campaign. And one of the examples he uses, he says very bluntly, every senator he spoke with who had made comments implying that the 2020 election was stolen, he said every one of them knew better. Every one of them knew this wasn't true, but they were afraid not to say it because they so desperately needed to be reelected, and they were afraid not jumping on the bandwagon would lead to them not being reelected. And he said, I was shocked to see that. He doesn't come quite out and say he lost respect for people, but he hints at it. Coppins, there's quite a bit more, and a lot of it more pleasant in the excerpt at the Atlantic, and I've linked to it on our Facebook page. I really recommend you read it because it is kind of Mitt Romney unbridled. Published today after Romney made the announcement, but so the announcement itself, I think this surprised a lot of people. It surprised me. I think Romney, had he chosen to run, this announcement today, obviously he's not going to be, but had he chosen to run, I think his reelection chances were pretty easy for him. I don't think this is a senator that was worried about getting reelected. It would have been his to take, basically. His popularity in Utah remains high. And so this is a senator that could have, I wouldn't say sailed. He would have had to battle through a primary with some further right Republicans. But I think he would have won that easily, and he definitely would have won the general election against an as of yet unnamed Democrat very easily. I don't think it would have been hard for him. He has the money to run his own and what he's fundraised. So I think he would have sailed to re-election had he chosen to, and Romney chose not to. And in making that announcement today, well, here's what he had to say in his own words.
You know, contrary to a lot of expectations, I enjoy my work in the Senate a good deal. The last few years have been particularly productive as I was able to help lead and negotiate the bipartisan infrastructure law, a comprehensive China strategy process, religious liberty protections, a compromised gun safety law, the Electoral Count Act reform, and emergency COVID relief funding. I was also able to help secure key Utah priorities, including funding for Hill Air Force Base and its program to modernize our nuclear deterrent, as well as funding for wildfire prevention, water infrastructure, rural broadband, removal of uranium tailings from Moab, expansion and restoration of our highway and transit infrastructure, and federal studies to save the Great Salt Lake. I've spent my last 25 years in public service of one kind or another. At the end of another term, I'd be in my mid-80s. Frankly, it's time for a new generation of leaders. They're the ones that need to make the decisions that will shape the world they will be living in. Now, we face critical challenges: mounting national debt, climate change, and the ambitious authoritarians of Russia and China. Neither President Biden nor former President Trump are leading their party to confront those issues. On deficits and debt, both men refuse to address entitlements, even though they know that this represents 2/3 of federal spending. Donald Trump calls global warming a hoax, and President Biden offers feel-good solutions that make no difference to the global climate. On China, President Biden underinvests in the military, and President Trump underinvests in our alliances. Political motivations too often impede the solutions that these challenges demand. The next generation of leaders must take America to the next stage of global leadership. While I'm not running for re-election, I'm not retiring from the fight. I'll be your United States Senator until January of 2025. I will keep working on these and other issues, and I'll advance our state's numerous priorities. I look forward to working with you and with folks across our state and nation in that endeavor. It really is a profound honor to serve Utah and the country, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so.
That was Romney's announcement posted to Twitter today, explaining his decision to not run for re-election. Governor Spencer Cox said he admired Romney for his service and principle, and said that he felt he'd represented Utah very well in the United States Senate, and that he's sad to see him go. And Cox also did note that we're probably not done with people making announcements to run for Senate. Right now, Riverton Mayor, a relative unknown, and running kind of as the MAGA candidate, is in Trent Staggs. Brad Wilson, Speaker of the House, is still exploring it with an exploratory committee. And Sean Reyes, I think everyone thought he'd jump in. I know I did. Sean Reyes has really made no secrets that he has aspirations for higher office. He made that very clear during the Trump administration, I think. But he surprised everybody today by saying, nope, I thought about it, and I think I'm just going to stay here and be AG. So we'll see. Jason Chaffetz is another name, former congressman, who's now just a Fox News personality. He's another name that's been thrown around. I doubt you'll see him jump in the race. Chaffetz, this wasn't really publicly out there, but Chaffetz burned a lot of bridges here in Utah among the power players, the big donors, and the legislative power structure itself when he bailed on the job after re-election to take a talking heads job at Fox News. That left a lot of bad tastes in a lot of mouths. And so Chaffetz, I don't think he might be publicly popular still here in Utah. Worried to jump back in. But he is not popular in the donor circles, and that basically would keep him out. So because of that, leaving Congress early just after being reelected. A lot of people had donated money to his campaign, basically is what it comes down to, and hoped he'd be in Congress again as an ear they could lobby. And then months later, he's like, I'm taking a job at Fox News. See you, bye. So a lot of people I think are keeping him out of the race. One name that came up today, I have no idea if there's anything serious behind this at all, but man, would it be interesting. But some people here in northern Utah talking about former Congressman Rob Bishop jumping into the United States Senate race. Again, I have no idea if there's anything to this, if these people know Bishop or in his political circles still. He's been pretty quiet since his last public job serving on the Independent Redistricting Commission that the legislature then completely ignored. And since then, he's been kind of quiet, invisible, and probably enjoying it. Knowing former Congressman Bishop, probably loving the fact that his phone isn't ringing constantly. I don't know that he's looking to get back into this world, but I do have to say, if he decided to, I think Congressman Bishop would actually be a formidable candidate in a Republican primary in a statewide race. So he probably could pull it off if that is something that he's interested in, which I personally doubt. But basing that on a handful of conversations with him only. So that's kind of where things are at. What do you think? How do you feel about this? Are there any people you'd like to see run? Any state lawmakers? That's something that we may see, some state lawmakers deciding they'd like to jump up a bit in the power ladder rungs. Any names you can think of you'd like to see do it? 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
I was struggling with constantly being hot, struggling with not sleeping, being able to fall asleep, stay asleep, or even wake up the next morning. I had very high levels of inflammation and memory loss. Memory loss was the scariest part.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
The sleep improved, my memory's coming back. Every time I remember something, I still get really excited. I go walking every morning now, which I've never done before. I've always really wanted to be that type of person that wakes up early enough to enjoy the sunrise. I get to do that every morning now.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively, and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
September is National Honey Month, and to celebrate, Cox Honeyland has local Cache Valley honey on sale. 12 pounds is $40, or 24 pounds is $77. Bring in your own jar. It's only $3.50 per pound, and it's also time for a summer clearance sale at Cox Honeyland. Save 50% off all summer merchandise, including the spinners. Their fun gift store is full of decor, treats, and more. That's Cox Honeyland and Gifts, 78 South, Highway 89, Logan.
You're invited to celebrate the 234th birthday of the U.S. Constitution on Friday, September 15th. Enjoy a delicious Dutch oven dinner and hear from Dr. Scott Bradley, who will speak on the U.S. Constitution, America's Harvest of Liberty. A portion of your ticket will go to support candidates committed to preserving the Constitution and your liberty. Buy your ticket today at cashgop.com. That's cashgop.com. See you there.
What if you could come home every day to a peaceful retreat nestled in the mountains? A place that's only minutes from downtown Logan, but offers access to national forests from your own backyard, surrounded by mountains, horse riding, hiking trails, babbling brooks, and more. All this at Maple Creek Ranch, which is now in its fourth and final phase of development. 2.5-acre lots, your own piece of paradise that's remote yet accessible. And road improvements will be completed this summer. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Go to maplecreekranch.net. Maple Creek Ranch, just east of Franklin, Idaho.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. The Rob Bishop for Senate suggestion got a big response from our listeners in the chat here, at least. You can text us using the Google Chat app or even just a Google account. Our handle is KVNUFTP, or email us at kvnuftp@gmail.com. Of course, the phone lines are open, 753-5868. If you do want to get a call in, though, you better hurry, because in hour 2, we're shifting gears. Frank Schofield, superintendent of Logan Schools, advisor and members of a Latino student group, will be with us here in the studio to talk about how they're meeting needs for the Latino community in Logan Schools and identifying needs as well through the student group and other efforts. So that's coming up at the start of hour 2. A couple of the texts we've gotten here on Romney's announcement he isn't running for re-election and some of the names being thrown out. Again, Attorney General Sean Reyes, who I would have predicted would jump in if Romney jumped out, said no today. That was the biggest surprise, I think. Brad Wilson, Speaker of the House, still exploring a run. He'll run. And Trent Staggs, a Riverton mayor, a mayor of a small town in South Salt Lake County, is already in. He's been a guest here on our show before. If you want to grab that podcast, he's the only one to have filed already. But if 2010, the last time we had a completely open, when Romney ran, we had a completely open seat. But when Romney jumped in, it basically just evaporated all the other options, because everyone knew if Romney wanted to win an election in Utah, he would win an election in Utah. And I think that stands still today. He would sail to re-election, decided not to. But so here we have an open seat, and this one's going to be truly open with no Romney name on the ballot anywhere. You're going to have a gazillion Republicans file for this seat before next January, or in next January. And it's going to get wild. But again, one name that was thrown out, I don't know if there's anything serious to this at all, but I saw a couple people on Twitter here in northern Utah saying, Congressman Rob Bishop, he's not doing anything right now. He'd be a great senator. I got thinking about that, and a couple of texters here saying the same thing. I think if former Congressman Bishop decided to jump in, I think he'd be a very formidable candidate. I think he'd be a good candidate, and I think he could win it. I don't think he has interest in getting back into this world, but, I'm constantly surprised by politics. Final note here, one texter saying, can we just leave the seat open and have no one? That